Hey guys, it's Danny. Today I have a bit of maintenance to do on this orchid, which, look how wild it is. It's not a wild orchid, it is nursery obtained and grown, even though it's a species. This is the Phalaenopsis bastiani, which, to my surprise, grew extremely wild looking, and I love it. It has a multitude of spikes. I counted 6 or 7 flower spikes. She is beautiful. But we also have a little Keiki on the side here, which if I wait any longer, I won't be able to fit in any of my tiny pots. So it's time to remove it, give a little break to the mother plant, and let her focus either on vegetative growth, either on all of these buds that I see she's forming. Whatever she feels like doing, I am okay with it, but I'm not okay with this Keiki just sucking the life out of her, which is exactly what happens. So I thought it would be a good idea to take you along. I like to do my maintenance with you guys. Keeps me from procrastinating way too long, and I hope you're gonna find this video useful. I did Keiki removals in the past, but hey, what's another one? All cases are just slightly different. I hope you'll enjoy today's video. So if you end up enjoying this video, do give it a like, it really helps it out, and why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week, mainly orchid content, but also other types of plants as well. So as we get ready, let me tell you a little bit about this orchid and why it's so wild and so full of flower spikes. It's a polychilous type. Many of them are sequential bloomers, meaning from the very same flower spike you can have multiple flowers for years and years. And being that these types of orchids don't produce a super large cascade of blooms like the Phalaenopsis subgenus, it's really not all that demanding on the orchid to have multiple flower spikes. So it's absolutely fine. This orchid can absolutely handle her tiny little flowers and her multitude of spikes. What is universally valid though is that no matter the subgenus, keikis really do consume a lot of energy because look at that, it's an entire plant with a flower spike. Did I show you this keiki has a flower spike? Yeah, and guess what? It's not self-sustained. It depends on the mother plant for everything. Do you think these roots absorb anything? No, my grow room is pretty dry. They don't absorb anything, they don't collect any nutrients, they don't do anything. They're just there, ready to absorb some water, which never happens because who has time to spray the roots, right? So all of this growth used the mother plant's energy to develop, which will not go on any further. I will remove this keiki today and pot it separately so it can start to live on its own. Now you might be accustomed to keikis forming on one of the nodes under the places where the buds form, right? Well, that surely can happen, but also sometimes you can have keikis at the very top of the flower spike. Pretty much it is the last thing the flower spike will grow. At the end of the flower spike, there is a growing tip or growth node. Typically from there, we have more spike growing, more buds. Sometimes it happens that the node simply transforms into a keiki, and most of the times it is the end of the flower spike. It's not gonna continue its growth anymore. In the case of polychilous, this does not mean the flower spike will dry. No, because looky here, right under the keiki, we have a branch, a secondary flower spike, with a bud forming. These guys, the polychilous, they're wonderful. I love them so much. So what I will do is cut the tip of the flower spike where the keiki is, but I'm gonna leave the entirety of the flower spike alone because I cannot get enough of those beautiful flowers. Right, so let me get my gloves, my tray, and a sanitized pair of pruners. Alrighty, so got my pruners here, and what I'm gonna do is go below the keiki. I would never advise you to twist it off or things of the sort because you can actually destroy the axis or the main stem of the orchid, and it's goodbye keiki if that happens. I want to cut the flower spike, and I hope it's visible. And there we have it. The flower spike is okay, it still has the secondary branch. And here is how the keiki looks like. You see, this is where I cut it, and I'm just going to leave that little stump be. So now let's see what pot it fits in. Look at that, it's perfect. I don't even need to bend the roots or anything. A little tip, these roots are not flexible at all, like at all. If you want to make them more flexible, just soak the keiki's roots in water for 15 minutes or so, and if they absorb water, which I don't even know if this one does. Let's see. If they absorb water, then it means that they will get more flexible. Sometimes they will not, and actually this one does not. Let me show you. Do you see I have a few spots which are a little bit green, but for the most part, you can see the droplets are on the roots. They're not being soaked. Here and there, maybe a little bit. Oh, it's actually starting to green up. I actually think the root can absorb. Okay, so if you want to make the roots more flexible, you can soak them in water 15 minutes. Sometimes it's gonna work, sometimes it will not. Depends if the roots are able to absorb the water. Why wouldn't they absorb the water? Because they grew in the air, in very dry conditions. So they adapted to those parameters. Inside the potting mix, they will adapt to whatever parameters they find there. And even if they're not fully adapted to higher humidity, these roots, I find, don't tend to die off. They are fresh roots, they're very adaptable at this stage. The older they get, the less adaptable they get as well. This is rather dry. I want to soak it a little. Okay, this is better. So the typical deal, we're gonna place sphagnum moss at the bottom, and then I'm gonna alternate with bark and layers of sphagnum moss, just like all of my other orchids. Now, initially, you can actually keep the keiki a little bit on the dry side, since all of the roots have grown in the air. Even though they are adaptable, I think there is a chance to shock them a little bit. It didn't happen to me ever, but I wouldn't be surprised if in some cases they will get a little bit shocked. So we don't want them to give up on us. They need to be okay, they need to branch. Worst case scenario, they can stop growing, but I want them to branch into roots that will be very well adapted to this environment. So at the beginning, I'm gonna maintain the pot a little more on the dry side. I'm not gonna soak it or do anything, just run some water through the pot, like 5 seconds, then let it drain very well, and then rewater it after it has been dry for 3 to 4 days. Obviously, I'm gonna read the orchid. If the orchid starts to get super dehydrated, I'm gonna give it more water. But I think initially, a little bit of a transition period will not hurt. It will keep me safe. And hey, if the orchid is okay with it, why wouldn't I do it, right? So for the first month, I'm gonna try to pretty much adjust the roots slowly and surely to this new environment. I will also use slow release fertilizer. I mentioned in the description all of the products that I use, so just scroll down. My gloves are wet and I don't want to put moisture in this jar. I'm just gonna do this. Wherever they fall, they fall. We're not gonna be too bothered by their exact location. I'm gonna top it off with bark. Now you might notice that I'm quite, I don't know what the word for it is. I'm not very meticulous, let's say, with how I arrange this medium, just sparkling the bark like that. I don't really place every bit of bark in the correct place. It doesn't matter. I want this pot to have some air pockets. Not very big ones, but good enough air pockets, again, to maintain these roots properly aerated. And I'll give you a close-up so you see the density, if you will. There we go. And that's enough. You really don't need to push down or anything. I want this moss to retain water and to be airy at the same time. Let me show you something cool. I don't know why I said cool. It's not cool. It's just interesting, hopefully. If you compress moss, practically eliminating the air pockets, like so, look what happens to the water. You squeeze it out. You know what this means? It means compacted moss does not retain as much water as fluffy moss. How about that? Furthermore, compacted moss, being that it does not have as many air pockets, not as big air pockets, is also suffocating, especially if it's damp. It's very, very suffocating. So what we want to do with the moss is make it fluffy, because in this way, it will retain more water than if it's compacted, and it will not suffocate the roots. Only bad stuff happens with compacted moss, whereas airy moss, only good stuff. Now, too much of a good thing can become bad, so I also use bark just to make sure I have those air pockets, which are very, very important. Just as important as the water retained by the moss. They all work together to give me the perfect environment for roots. One without the other does not work in my environment. It can work in some, but in mine, no. So that's my magical recipe, right? I blabbed enough about the Keiki and the sphagnum moss and all of that. So let's address the mother plant real quick. I'm gonna give her a special treatment. Hold on. All right, so my special treatments do not imply all sorts of substances and boosters and stuff. What I want to do for this orchid, because it had the Keiki, it has a ton of flower spikes, like 7 flower spikes at this point and a ton of buds, and she's still looking fresh. She deserves a good, nice, long bath. She deserves a soak. Now, I don't do soaks in the winter because it's an overkill, but for this one, it's not an overkill. This watering can is so satisfying. Look how the water pools. Or pours, sorry. Am I the only one? Why is this so satisfying? I really like this watering can. It's the rePotme one, by the way. As you might have noticed, I always use it in my videos. Oh no, I don't have enough water. Oh, I do. Right, so I'm gonna let it soak for 15 minutes or so, and that should be enough. Because in these 15 minutes, the roots will absorb water until they get slightly waterlogged. We're not gonna reach that point, don't worry, but they will absorb as much as the velamen can absorb, and then I'm gonna remove whatever's left from the pot and dig this. Not only will the velamen be soaked with water, but the medium will have water as well. So we're gonna give her a really nice hydrating spa treatment. This should last me for a week or so after this. Typically in winter, I just pour a little water and then the medium absorbs whatever it can, but it's not full capacity. It can absorb more than I give it, but in winter, it's not the case. With this one though, it is. So it's a good idea to read the room, as they say. Each orchid will have a bit of a different story. Not all orchids get the same treatment, even if they live in the same place, even if they are from the same species. Sometimes some orchids will require a little bit more attention, like this little girl. And I bet you in a month she's gonna be full of flowers. Oh my goodness. The flowers are very tiny though. They're like that. They're pretty. So with that said, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so by searching for me. I'm at MissOrchidGirl. You can visit my shorts channel where I'm gonna post updates, but also clickbait comedic stuff. But most importantly, do subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with all of my videos, because this is where I post the most. So with that said, I'll see you all next time. Have a great weekend. Bye.